Hello guys, hello and welcome to a YouTube video on computer science, memory and storage. This is one of the topics that is on the paper 1 of the computer science paper, and specifically for the OCR specification. And obviously the OCR specification will be linked in the description below, and you'll be able to follow on with that. So anyway, let's just briefly tell you what's going on, what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be mentioning about primary storage. So we're going to be mentioning the need for primary storage, the difference between RAM and ROM. So for example, RAM is volatile and ROM is non-volatile. What the difference is, how do they compare? The purpose of RAM and ROM in the computer system, as well as virtual memory, which should be pretty easy. And for the second part of the video, we'll be looking at secondary storage, where we have most common storage types. The three that we need to know for GCSE are optical, magnetic and solid state. And we need to know that about suitable storage devices and storage media, advantages and disadvantages of these storage devices, and we need to consider the things such as capacity, portability, durability, reliability, etc. Anyway, let's get to it. So why do we need primary storage? Well, primary storage is where the computer gets its instructions from, which is in RAM. So RAM is an example of primary storage because it's what's used to transfer data. It's what's stored. So it's basically what's data. So once data's in RAM, the CPU is able to fetch it directly from RAM. So let's say CPU. So what basically does is the CPU and the RAM interlink with each other, so they send information from and to. So yes, primary storage is important because without primary storage, the CPU wouldn't be able to send and receive, wouldn't be able to store data for the for like such things such as programs on your computer. As well as RAM, we have ROM. So we've got RAM. Oopsies. We got ROM. So RAM is volatile, which means that it's cleared once the computer has been turned off, and we wouldn't use it as secondary storage because we don't want to be redoing our files, recreating our files over and over again. ROM stores the boot sequence of the operating system initially, and also stores the BIOS, and is non-volatile. And two important factors about both of them is RAM is read-write, so you can read and write to RAM, and ROM is read-only memory, so read plus write and then read-only memory. ROM is necessary here as it stores the boot sequence of the BIOS, and we cannot, as we explained earlier, it's read-only memory, which means that we cannot change it. Another thing to consider is swapping, upgrading. RAM is easy to upgrade, as you can take RAM in, you can take it out easily and take it back in, and you can have different sets of RAM, so like 1, 2, 4. Normally it'll be start around 8 gigabytes of RAM, and then it'll be 16, 32, 64. But our ROM is not easily upgradable, as it's sorted onto the motherboard, and ROM isn't preferred isn't really upgradable. So another thing to consider with the primary storage is virtual memory, which is basically using the secondary storage, such as a hard drive, to load and unload bits of application and data. So let's say we have RAM here. So we have our RAM, and we have our hard drive, we have our CPU. So that's constantly sending and receiving data from RAM and CPU. But then all of a sudden we have all of these. RAM is full, isn't it? We have all of this data. So once RAM is full, that data would start going into virtual memory. Which is just a dedicated space in the secondary storage, which allows us to swap applications and data around. One drawback of virtual memory is that it's slow, which means the CPU needs to do more fetch execute cycles in order for it to retrieve its memory from secondary storage. Now we've covered primary storage. Let's get rid of this first. Now we covered primary storage. Let's look at secondary storage. So secondary storage is non-volatile storage. So you've got for example, SSD, which allows us to store things without needing to redo. We can just save them. So secondary storage. So secondary storage, non-volatile, and used to store files and applications. So what this means is that when you have like, say, like a file, and you want to save it, you can save it onto your local hard drive, so your HDD, SSD, and then what that allows us to do is save our progress, so we don't have to go back and do it again. Like if we were going to use RAM here, it would be it wouldn't be efficient because of the amount of times we are constantly redoing our work / installations. And as I said before, RAM is temporary / volatile storage. So let's consider the uses of different types of let me just quickly delete this. So there are 3 types of storage that we need to consider: optical, magnetic, and solid state. And don't worry, this is all we need to know for GCSE. So you got your typical optical, which is stuff like your CDs, DVDs, and your Blu-rays. Wait, let me quickly just move. There's CDs and DVDs, yeah. DVDs. Magnetic is your HDDs, and then your solid state is like USBs and SSDs. So let's look into them in a bit more detail. So optical, so CD discs used to store data. Good for archiving, but can easily be broken. So what this means is that if you have a CD in your home, you can test it yourself. So basically, if you take a CD, you can snap it. So basically, try to snap it and it'll snap. And what that does is basically it breaks the CD, obviously, and your data can't be retrieved again. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at the second one, so magnetic. So magnetic is your hard drives. So what is your HDDs? So uses what's it called? Uses like a pin in the middle, and spinning discs to read data. And this can be easily broken also if dot slash and also slash b do not put near magnets. So what that basically means is that basically if you put a magnet on it, it will corrupt it. It would corrupt the full thing. Yeah. Okay then. Okay then, let's just rub this out and move on to. Tell I'm not good at using this. I'll just. Okay then, solid state. The solid state is USBs and SSDs. Use electronic impulses. So no moving parts. So what that means is we have it's completely quiet. So, but has limited read read write cycle. So which means it will have a certain amount of read write before it basically breaks. So other factors to consider. So we've looked, and we need to look at capacity. So capacity of optical wouldn't be that large. I can't remember the figure from the top of my head, but it's quite small. Your magnetic hard drives can be bought in like 1 terabyte. Here's the like 7 terabytes and stuff. So like you can mainly use them for like archiving stuff and filing stuff away. Your solid state also comes in larger quantities as well. So like 1 terabyte, 5 terabytes. Yeah. Another factor to consider is cost. So cost for CDs are quite cheap. They're quite cheap, so you can buy them off any store, in any stores, for as cheap as possible, basically. Then we have hard drives, which are they're kind of like cheap / expensive. It's awful handwriting that. Expensive. So can come in large quantities but can be cheap / expensive. So basically mid-range. And then you've got solid state, which is expensive as it's got no moving parts, and it's got lots of electronics inside of it which are used to store the data. So I mentioned about capacity. So with speed, so optical can be quite slow, and if broken then the data is unretrievable. Magnetic hard drives are slow or like pointing the read-write head. That's what I was meant to say before. The pin was the read-write head. So, it'll take, if you want a specific piece of data, you have to wait for the read-write head to spin around a couple of times before you get the data. And solid state is quite fast as it's got no moving parts, and it's just using electrical impulses to basically get the data. Reliability and portability. So optical discs, optical is quite portable. So you can take it around anywhere, but like CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays can't really. So magnetic hard drives are heavy, so not really, so they are heavy and aren't practical. They're heavy and not practical, basically. And solid state is the opposite of that. Reliability of, you'd say that you have more reliability in the magnetic hard drive because you can store lots of data on it for a very long time, while solid state has a specific certain read-write times and has a limited lifespan. So that's partially what so if you want to look at the specification, we've gone through 1.2.1 and 1.2.2. So basically we're just explaining primary storage and secondary storage. So in the next video we'll probably be going through 1.2.3 and 1.2.4 in a bit more detail to finish off. So I think that's the end of me talking. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.